and in his speech. Very quickly, we had Afghan women here in this very room a couple of weeks ago, and they seem to be feeling and thinking that the OIC is not doing enough to support their rights, and that the OIC has levers with the Taliban that they're not using to support the cause of women there. What's your response to that? And then as the chair of the OIC, and also as the son of the first Muslim woman to head a democratic government in the world, the late Benazir Bhutto, what's your message to Afghan women and to the Taliban regarding that issue? And then I have another question, if that's okay.
Just let me answer this first. So as far as the Prime Minister's speech is concerned, he did call on the government, the interim government of Afghanistan to respect their citizens' rights regardless of gender, etc., if I'm correct. As far as the situation on education is concerned within Afghanistan, particularly female education is concerned in Afghanistan, while we recognize that there's primary education available to women and there's segregated tertiary education available to women, Pakistan, along with the rest of the international community, is waiting for the interim Afghan regime to implement secondary education for women as well. As far as my message to the women of Afghanistan and the women of the Muslim world, this I don't believe is an issue of the international community, or not just an issue of the international community. This should be an issue for the Muslim world, for the Muslim Ummah, and you're indeed correct, for the OIC as well. Because Islam is what first gave women their rights. Islam is what guarantees women their rights to participate within society and their right to education. So we expect not only Afghanistan but across the world for women to not only be guaranteed these rights but these rights to be protected. I'm actually currently the chair of the Council of Foreign Ministers of the OIC, and I am trying before our chairmanship expires, God willing, to be able to hold an event under the auspices of the OIC to do with women's rights in Islam.
Mariam?
Sure. As a delegation, I think it's the second Pakistani-American delegation that goes to Israel, and we haven't heard a comment from any governmental source in Pakistan on what that means. A lot of people are wondering, are we witnessing a new page in the relations between Israel and Pakistan? Are you ready for normalization? Can you restate your position towards Israel, please?
My Foreign Office has already issued a response to this accusation. Let me reiterate, absolutely not. Pakistan's position on the issue and the question of Palestine is clear and always has been. As far as these delegations are concerned, I believe that there's some sort of international NGOs that are sending the people between the countries or civilizations, as far as my information is concerned, and it's nothing to do with the government of Pakistan or the government of Pakistan's policy. But each time some of these NGOs set up these interfaith or interconnected events, it just so happens because either some of the people going are dual citizens of Pakistan or have some sort of connection in Pakistan, it's hyped up in social media as a component of our foreign policy, which it absolutely is not.
Thank you so much for doing this briefing today, and I'm sorry for the whole catastrophe situation in Pakistan. This is Mariam Ramadi from Afghanistan International. I have two questions for you. One is on Afghanistan, of course, as an Afghan woman and Afghan journalist, and one is on Iran. I'm going to start with Afghanistan. 1 year ago, when the Taliban took over Afghanistan, the Pakistan government was telling the international community to don't push Taliban, be patient with Taliban, and give them a little bit of time. 1 year has passed. The Taliban are behaving worse than they were before. Human rights, women's rights, and not to mention the situation at the border. They had many conflicts with Pakistani officials at the border. People have been killed there. What is the position of Pakistan on the Taliban and their behavior in the region and inside the Afghanistan right now? Has the position changed? Can you tell me about that?
So I think that I think all of us, everyone in the region, in the neighborhood, but also the international community, wants to see a peaceful, stable, prosperous Afghanistan, where all citizens, regardless of gender, regardless of ethnicity, regardless of their various religious beliefs, enjoy the fundamental rights that all citizens across the world should enjoy. And as far as their quest, the interim government's quest to have their government recognized internationally, I believe it would be helpful for them in achieving this goal if they were to live up to their commitments, not only with the people of Afghanistan, the international community, but all of us in the region. Amongst those commitments are indeed the commitments on women's rights and women's education, the use of their soil, or sort of not to allow the use of their soil for terrorist or cross-border terrorist activity, and some sort of inclusive setup. While it has been a year, and I hear you that there is a lot of impatience about the progress being made so far, I'm still hopeful and will continue to engage in order to encourage that we do achieve those aims, because I believe it is not only in my interest, it's in the people of Afghanistan's interest that we do get there. I just want to go back to the issue of women's rights within Afghanistan. I understand that it has been a year. But along with the rights issue, we've also seen a deterioration of the humanitarian situation in Afghanistan and the economic situation in Afghanistan. We dread an economic collapse in Afghanistan. And my fear is that if the international community does not mobilize, does not live up to what the UN Secretary General has been saying about their commitments vis-a-vis the economy in Afghanistan, and we do see a complete and utter collapse of their economy, then like theocratic, autocratic regimes in the past, rather than an extension of rights for their citizens, we'll see a contraction of rights for their citizens. And that is why Pakistan and other countries continue to advocate not only for engagement, but also for a joint effort to ensure, in the greatest interest of the Afghan people, that we address the economically fragile situation in Afghanistan.
Thank you so much for that. I'm going to ask my second question, if you want.
We are short of
about Iran, I'm so sorry. This is an important issue. I'm sure Mahsa Amini's name rang a bell for you. A girl who was killed by morality police in the Islamic Republic of Iran. People are on the streets protesting. Women are leading these protests. What is your message to the government of Iran, who is suppressing these peaceful protests, and to women of Iran as an Islamic country, Pakistan, and the neighboring country to Iran? Thank you so much.
I think that the people of Iran have a long history of protests and democratic struggle. As far as this incredibly tragic incident that you're referring to, I did note that the Afghan, I believe it was the foreign minister, had announced that there would be an investigation into this incident, and I believe that we're looking forward to see the results of that. Thank you.
Iftikhar.
Mr. Foreign Minister, thank you for doing this briefing. And by the way, congratulations on your birthday.
Thank you.
Related.
Thank you.
My question is to seek a clarification. You spoke about the upgrading of the UN Clash of People. And at the same time, there are reports that there will be a donors conference. So, which is
so there's the upgrading of the UN flash appeal is necessary, given the drastic sort of increase in needs. The donors conference can only take place once you have a comprehensive damage needs assessment necessary and a complete dossier about all the necessary actions that need to be taken. The damage needs assessment cannot be accurately completed until the floodwaters truly recede. And if you were to visit areas of Dadu around Manshur Lake or other areas of the province of Sindh, there's still incredible amounts of flooding and damage. So as this water recedes, you will get a comprehensive damage needs assessment done, and we will be in a place to hold a donors conference hopefully before the end of the year. A revision in the UN flash appeal was expected when we initially set out with the appeal, but we thought it was all the more important to go ahead when we were launching the initial appeal because of the desperation of the situation. Before the end of the year. The President Macron of France has very generously offered to host a conference for the flood affectees, and the UN Secretary General has also offered to co-host. So we're working on that, and I'll have more details for you going forward.
Yes, please.
Hi, Mr. Foreign Minister. Michael Mathis with Agence France Presse, AFP. You spoke a little bit earlier about the international economic order and differences between the developing nations and richer countries. Given the dire humanitarian crisis in Pakistan right now and the economic difficulties, what would you like to see in terms of any debt cancellation for Pakistan, and is there a mechanism for that? And also, if I can ask, on climate change, does Pakistan want to see climate reparations by wealthy countries?
Okay, so I think that when you start talking about debt cancellations, people start worrying about default. So let me first insist that Pakistan is nowhere near that default type situation. Two, as far as near that default type situation. Two, as far as as far as cancellation of debt, that's not necessarily what we're seeking, but surely for immediate payments right now while we're going through this catastrophe, perhaps we'd be seeking a moratorium with our bilateral partners. In the context of debt and within the broader context of loss and damage, the UN Secretary General has made, I think, what is a compelling argument for the idea of debt swap. In the sense that where a developing country, particularly one like Pakistan, would trade their debt, and that instead of paying that debt to the country that was due, we'd use it to either spend on SGDs or, in our case, climate resilient infrastructure.
Martin?
Any other part of the question that I missed? No. So I think that the call for reparations is one that is being made, climate reparations, if it were, is a call being made by activists not only in Pakistan, across South Asia, and all over the world. As far as diplomatically, politically, or as a representative of the government, we're not actively seeking climate reparations, but we do want to have a conversation about climate justice and how we can work together to address these issues. As far as reparations are concerned, I believe that no one has thus far been successful in achieving reparations, be it the various walks of life where reparations are being demanded. So I believe it's a tall ask and perhaps needs a lot more work on. In the immediate sort of now a more realistic conversation is one that's sort of colored by climate justice and something that we can perhaps achieve, moratoriums, debt swaps, and the rest.
We will take our last question because we started late. My apologies. Mr. Martin?
We've just answered Afghanistan. Your neighbor just asked. We'll do it again.
Okay, yeah. Sorry, Mr. Minister, thank you for the briefing. My question is, the reform of international financial system has been talked a lot about, also as the current general debate. So from your perspective as the chair of G77 and also the foreign minister of a developing country, what do you think are the specific steps that should be taken to start the ball rolling?
So I wouldn't be able to claim that this is our initiative or our push. This is definitely a suggestion or a topic that has been advocated and under the leadership of the UN Secretary General. And in our G77 meeting earlier today, a couple of issues that he pointed out was one that, say, African countries or even countries sort of former colonies were not independent or free at the forming of this of our international system, and within that context is calling for reform. I don't imagine that this is something that would be an overnight reform. It would require extensive engagement and will take some time to achieve, but particularly within the G77 context, many of our member states are advocating for something.
Thank you very much. They are finishing because there's another press conference here, so we have to finish. Anwar Iqbal.
Thank you very much. What would be climate justice for Pakistan?
So, if a country's output or carbon output is 0.8%, but they're the 8th most climate stressed country in the planet. They've become the epicenter of extreme climate events. That, as the UN Secretary General said, we're not only drowning in floods, we're also drowning in debt. So climate justice would mean that those countries that we do enjoy relationships with, these larger industrialized, richer countries, whose industrialization has contributed far more to climate change than Pakistan, would engage with Pakistan in a sympathetic manner. Not only a sympathetic manner, I believe we can come up with win-win solutions where we can use the opportunities created by this crisis for a green Marshall Plan or a green Silk Road in order to rebuild, but rebuild in a way that's climate resilient, that's greener, and that's more appropriate for the difficult times to come.
Thank you.
What's your message for Afghan women who are suffering for a long time?
My message for the women of Afghanistan is that I am with you and I will always be with you.
They are not allowed to go to school. They are not allowed to.
They should be allowed to go.
Special Islam. They always talking about Sharia law. Pakistan is our neighbor. Pakistan has influences to them. Mr. Sharif mentioned that Afghanistan is safe haven for terrorists. Why we suffer?
So as
so many women, no delegation from Afghanistan, no women. I'm a woman, suffered woman from Afghanistan.
Absolutely,
You're our
ma'am.
neighbor. I interviewed your mother.
Really?
She was friend of mine. She
I
was
see.
wonderful, but we suffered. This is 40, 50 years that Afghan people
Absolutely. I think that the government in Afghanistan will soon find that it is not wise to fight with the women of your own country.
Thank you.
And the women of Afghanistan are truly brave, resilient women. They've had to be too brave for far too long. But I am honestly, this is a topic that we don't give up on. This is something that we consistently engage with the interim Afghan regime. And while there is access to female education at the primary level or the tertiary level segregated education, we do hope to see the day that secondary education is also allowed for women and girls in Afghanistan. And we say it again and again and again that this is not an issue for the West. This is not an issue for America or the United Kingdom or the European Union. This is an issue for the Islamic world and Muslim women across the Islamic world who've been granted their rights by their religion, and we should not compromise on their rights.
I'll take last question, Shabir. Sir, last question.
She's the boss. She's the boss.
Last question, Shabir. We are done. Okay.
यार मैं क्या करूँ अब?
Shabir, you can have a last question, then we
Please tell me who am I answering?
Can you please sit down?
Yeah, why? Few words on your meeting with the Secretary.
We have to start the new.
Security and economic measures you're intend to discuss when you discuss?
Once I've concluded our visit here to the United Nations, I will be making my way to DC for my bilateral engagement with the United States, and I look forward to meeting once again with Secretary Blinken. After that meeting, I shall share with you what we have achieved. Thank you.
Thank you very much
Chairing
for
the
your
G77.
وزیر خارجہ بلاول بھٹو زرداری نیو یارک میں پریس کانفرنس کر رہے تھے. انہوں نے کہا کہ پاکستان کے سیلاب سے متاثرہ علاقے ابھی بھی تباہ کاریوں کا سامنا کر رہے ہیں. سیلاب سے متاثرہ علاقوں میں امدادی کام بہتر طریقے سے جاری ہے. انہوں نے کہا کہ متاثرین تک امداد صاف اور شفاف طریقے سے پہنچائی جا رہی ہے. اس موقع پر مختلف تنظیموں کے صحافیوں سے گفتگو کرتے ہوئے انہوں نے کہا کہ سیلابی صورتحال کے باعث عالمی برادری سے فلیش اپیل کی گئی. کھیل کے میدان سے خبر یہ ہے کہ انگلینڈ نے بڑی ہار کا بدلہ بڑی جیت سے لے لیا. تیسرے T20 میں گرین شرٹس کو 63 رن سے ہرا دیا. ریکارڈ ہدف کے تعاقب میں قومی ٹیم 8 وکٹس پر 158 رنز بنا سکی. کراچی کے نیشنل اسٹیڈیم میں